The Financial Survival Network, helping you to survive and thrive in the new economy. Get your free financial survival toolkit and find out where to buy gold and silver safely at great prices. Sign up at financialsurvivalnetwork.com. This is the Financial Survival Network.
1490 WGCH. This is Kerry Lutz, and you're listening to the Financial Survival Network, which is brought to you by Miles Franklin. They've been in business selling gold since 1990, and I'm a customer because when you buy, they ship. To find out more, go to milesfranklin.com or call them at 800-822-8080 and get a free quote. This is Kerry Lutz, and you are listening to the FinancialSurvivalNetwork.com. And today, it is my privilege to introduce you to AnnMarie Murrell. AnnMarie, welcome to the FinancialSurvivalNetwork.com.
Hi, Kerry. I'm so glad to be here.
And we are so happy to have you because you are the last angry conservative woman left in Southern California, aren't you?
Oh, no, there are a lot of angry Southern California women and men out here. They're making some noise. They really are. They're working hard.
Just tell us a little bit about you. How did you get onto this path of trying to be the voice of sanity in an obviously insane part of the country?
Well, I guess we can go back to 2008, and Barack Obama became president.
He did?
And I saw him transforming my country. You know, the usual story. Just pure anger. It was like a volcano, and it just started erupting all over the place on social network, out in my real life, and it hasn't stopped.
Hasn't stopped, huh?
No.
So now you're armed and extremely dangerous, but what do you think? What do you think the biggest challenge is that we're facing here in the U.S. and the Western world?
Oh, Lord. It's hard to know where to start with that one. Mainly, we've got to find a way to take back our country from the progressive nut job, whack jobs that have taken over. And it's been happening right under our noses for decades. We know this now, but it took someone like Barack Obama to open our eyes to this. And we've got to get it back. We've got to start using our voices. We don't have any. We're out of options.
I think you're right there. But, you know, you look at a state like California, it's been bankrupt for the past 5 or 6 years, been spending way more than you take in. You've been making up the difference by borrowing, by fake accounting maneuvers, by one-shot revenue sources, and cooking the books, basically. And what's really distressing is that nobody in your state seems to have any desire to change it.
I would say you're right on a lot of counts. There are some very, very good people out here. We have Darrell Issa, remember. We've got Darrell Issa. We've got some really strong people coming up in the race. We've got Elizabeth Empton, who's running for Senate. We've got Tim Donnelly is one of my favorite people. Are you familiar with him out here?
That name is familiar. I don't think I've had him on yet.
You got to get him on because he started out as a militiaman, and he was featured on Comedy Central because he took a group of militiamen to the Mexican border and started building their own damn fence. He was featured in a movie. I mean, he's a great guy. He's an assemblyman, and there are some big things coming up with Tim Donnelly. So great. So we do have some really good people, but man, we're just overwhelmed by that liberal progressive voice. They have the microphone. They have Hollywood. They have the media. We're overwhelmed out here.
Let me ask you, with all you're up against, with Holly Weird and those people, most of who never really made it through high school, and if they did, they were probably intoxicated most of the time. So you have to discount everything they say, and yet somehow they become authorities. But have you ever given thought to leaving the People's Republic of California?
I am a fifth-generation Texan, so you don't know how many of my friends and family have been begging me to come back. But I love California. I mean, this is paradise. If it weren't for the crazy whack job nut jobs out here, that's the problem is the people. And I just feel like I'd be abandoning them. There aren't that many of us out here that are willing to take a real stand and try to make changes. And I feel like she needs me. California needs me more than Texas right now.
Hey, I'm married to somebody who's must be fourth or fifth generation Texan as well.
Really?
But I'm not going to get into her political leanings because I have to go home tonight. But suffice it to say, she's a little bit left of where you and I are.
Yeah. Okay.
And I remember the first time I came to California, I was 15 years old on a teen tour, and I thought it was the greatest place on earth. The weather, the beaches, just the whole lifestyle of it. And that was 40 years ago. And I was back recently, a couple weeks ago, and the deterioration, I just was astounded by it. It just amazed me how bad the place has gone down. I couldn't believe it, AnnMarie. I was shocked.
One word sums up the problem with California: unions.
Yeah. Well, we're going to talk about unions, but first I want to talk about an article that you wrote that you no longer have compassion for the homeless. How can you be so cruel?
I know. Horrible. I mean, when you posted, I posted on my Facebook page what you wrote, the little blurb for this. And I got reamed on the page, and then mostly privately, getting these evil messages.
Good.
Yeah. And I said, read the article before you jump to conclusions. Read it. And one guy, a very nice gentleman, actually went back publicly and apologized. And he said, okay, I read the article, got it. But
some people have no sense of humor. What can I tell you?
I know. What's wrong with people? Get a grip. I want to say, I wish we had the most amazing talk yesterday.
Yeah,
Carrie.
we did.
It was great. I want to admit to you here and to whoever's listening, I was once homeless myself. After I got divorced in Texas, came back to California. I was a single mom, no child support, and I literally lived in my sister's garage.
It's terrible.
Not a garage apartment. I lived in a garage with an air mattress. They took the car out at night, but it was a garage. It never once occurred to me to take any kind of food stamps or anything else. I worked 2 or 3 jobs at different times. That was in Santa Clarita, and I drove from Santa Clarita to Beverly Hills, where I knew I would have a better chance of moving up in a job. I worked in a department store selling makeup. I did whatever I had to do to get out of that garage. It was mortifying to me. I felt like a subhuman. The contrast in my life back then, going from Beverly Hills, selling makeup to the richest people you can imagine and celebrities, and then going there and going back to that garage every night was so demeaning to me. I don't know how anyone would ever want to stay in that situation. I did everything I had to do to get out of it. And I don't know. I think it's a mindset. When you get in that mindset and it's almost like crack. You just resign to it. I don't know. But
somehow you pull through.
I understand. I do have compassion, but I have compassion more for people who try to get out of that situation. And I think a lot of people get comfortable. I don't know.
You think so? Yeah, well, I guess it's like a narcotic, and people who feel like they can't make it on their own, or they're scared or fearful of having to survive an independent lifestyle wind up accepting it, taking the easy way out. You were mentioning that you belonged to a church and you had kids in the church, and then you had these hardened homeless people, many of whom are drug addicts, alcoholics, insane, and potentially dangerous. We've had instances in New York, as I'm sure you have in California, where people have been killed by crazy homeless who go on a rampage.
Yeah. So that was the loss of compassion that I talked about in the article. It started out with when I first came to Hollywood, and I had just turned 20 years old, and all the kids in Hollywood back then, it was 1982. Almost all the homeless then were runaways. They were kids my age that were they were literally laying on the sidewalks, those star-covered sidewalks, begging people for money. And I resented that because even back then, when I first got into town, I was taking the bus to work. I was, again, working 2-3 jobs. It never occurred to me to ask someone to hand my hand out and say, give me something for nothing. Didn't make sense to me. So that was phase one of my disgust. Then phase two was when I was in my 30s and a single mom and walking past with my little boy in my hand, wearing hand-me-down clothes and shoes and holes in his shoes, walking past grown men asking me for money when I could barely make ends meet. And I finally went nuts on this one particular, it was the homeless straw that broke my back, and just went off on him. It's really, really, really difficult to have the endless compassion, but just giving someone a handful of change is not a solution. The thing with Obama, the thing with this particular administration is they're trying to convince people that is the new norm. You can't depend on yourself. You have to depend on the government. That's where I think it's the most dangerous thing in American life today.
Yeah.
That's what scares me.
Yeah, that culture of dependency. And I'm just going to relate a little story that happened to me that made me realize that there was absolutely nothing that I could do for them myself. And I was at the Port Authority bus terminal in New York City, and it doubles in the evenings as a homeless shelter. And I'm in front of this bakery, and this woman approaches me, and she wants money. And somebody who worked for me said, you should never give them money, just buy them food. So I said, all right, I'm going to put this into action. I'm really going to do something to help this woman because she's hungry. So I say, well, I won't give you money, but what do you want in the case there? Tell me what you want, and I'll buy it for you. So she points out this blueberry muffin. I buy it for her. It was like $2. I give the $2 to the cashier. She gets it, and then she tries to return it to the cashier to get the money back. At that point, I said, I am never going to give them another penny. I will donate. There's one thing called the Doe Fund in New York where they actually take the people out. The deal is you must remain drug-free, you must remain alcohol-free, and you must be willing to work. We will give you a broom, you will sweep up the streets, and we will pay you and give you a place to live. The second you go back on drugs, the second you take a drink, you're out of the program. And this program is one of the most successful programs in the country. That is the only one, and the Salvation Army to a lesser extent.
And is that one of the programs that Obama just gutted, fair reform? I'm sure
that was a workfare program.
Yeah, and anything that seems to get them to get back on their feet and not dependent on the government seems to be what they believe is an enemy. That's extremely frustrating.
Well, they could be losing a potential voter if that person becomes a member of the workforce again. So, it breaks those bonds of slavery, those chains that the people don't realize they have the key to get out of, but they've convinced them. What we talked about yesterday, the Obama phone. Oh, another.
Why do you buy your own phone if you're going to be given one for free? It's astounding to me.
Hey, and you know what? If you collect food stamps, you too can get an Obama phone. If you get any kind of public assistance, if you're on Medicaid, if you're under 133% of the federal poverty level, you too can get an Obama phone, and you get 250 minutes a month. I'm not sure if you get texting with that and if there's a data plan involved, but you know what, AnnMarie, if there's not now, there will be later, because you have a constitutional right for other people to pay for you to have access to the internet. I'm sure that's coming, right?
Yeah. Oh, of course. Yeah. Of course. I was in D.C. at the Road to Repeal rally. I was on the the steps of the Supreme Court the first day that they were voting on Obamacare. And they had, of course, the SEIU and Planned Parenthood was there, and they were all protesting. They were chanting over and over, healthcare is a human right. I am so sick of what people define as human right. A product is not a human right. A cell phone, is not a human right. When I was a struggling single mom, I wouldn't have wanted a cell phone. I would have wanted bread and meat. What happened to those people? What they've deemed as necessities in their life is just disgusting. And any other country, our homeless are so blessed. They really are. They are just so blessed.
Oh, you're going to get flames for that statement, let me tell you. But, you talk about the safety net. Well, Governor William Weld, the former governor of Massachusetts, he used to say the safety net should not be a hammock. And clearly in the Golden State, it's a gold-plated hammock, isn't it?
Wow, yeah. Did you tell me that you visited Santa Monica when you were here?
Yeah, I was totally freaked out the deterioration of that once great city. It really, it just disturbed me like I can't tell you. Yeah,
yeah. Well, if you were a homeless person, isn't that where you would go? You get to live on the beach. The weather's beautiful out here all year round, and they welcome that. They don't discourage it, and they don't. I'm not sure with Santa Monica. I'm not sure what programs are intact, if they have any that try to get them off the street. It doesn't appear to be, and it seems like you're saying that Santa Monica is just disintegrating as we speak, as is the whole state. It's ravaged.
A lot of people would work, but they get seduced by this free lunch. And there is no free lunch. I mean, and they just compound the problem. And you're in California. Cities are lined up around the block to go bankrupt, much like a homeless at a shelter at feeding time. Is that the solution? Bankruptcy for all these California cities and the state?
And they're shutting down fire departments in California. They're releasing criminals from prisons because they can't afford to keep them in jail anymore. No, it's not the solution. And again, it still goes back to unions out here. Until they start doing some reforming, we need a Governor Walker.
Yeah, well, good luck. We need one too in New York. We have a guy who talks the talk, but when it comes down to it, doesn't walk the walk. And I just want to relate a quick story to you. I've been a major local activist reformer and helped get some fiscally sane people into our town. And one of the things that rankled me and many of the people in the town was that if you were a board member and you served for 5 years, you got free, in quotes, free, meaning taxpayer funded health insurance for the rest of your life. So we ran people on a platform that this was going to be ended for all part-time workers. Caps would be put on for non-union workers, because if you want the unions to sacrifice, everybody's got to take a bite. So when they were debating this, it was very contentious. And I got up and I said, all of you part-time people, board members who accept this are parasites. And I kind of wasn't real clear whether I meant all the employees of the town or just these. And the next time I got attacked viciously saying to call retired workers parasites for taking benefits that were part of their retirement package was a vicious attack. Everybody is entitlement mentality, entitlement bound. Let's face the facts here. You've been to government offices. It's just another welfare program. It's just another way to give out taxpayer money without getting any value in return, right?
Oh, right. Yeah, absolutely.
It's sickening. And then they tell me how hard they work. Man, they don't know what it's like to put in an 80-hour day. And they don't know what it's like when you had to work 2-3 jobs and live on a blow-up mattress on the concrete garage floor, do they?
It's really, really, really frustrating. And to think that Jerry Brown was reelected in California, it's dumbfounding. It really is. But he got in there on the union's back.
Oh, yeah.
So there's no way he's going to be able. He's indebted to them. He owes them everything. We've got some strong people in California behind the scenes that supposedly are going to be trying to do some stuff in Los Angeles. I've heard a little buzz.
Mm-hmm. All right.
I'm hoping they step up.
Well, the one thing, and there's a guy who's a friend. He owns a gold company in California, a guy by the name of Tyler Gallagher. He owns Regal Assets. And he said, nobody is prepared for the collapse that's going to occur. Most people, 98%, won't be prepared. But you know what? When it happens, then it's game over. They're going to have to accept that things are different. And you're going to have anomalies like fire departments closing while we're still giving out all these welfare benefits, but all these promises will be broken. We're going to have to go back to sanity because there's really no choice. And I just wanted to touch on your site, Politichicks.tv. You and a number of other right-thinking California women started that site, right?
Actually, the site was started from some right-thinking people in Atlanta, Georgia. But it's me and Dr. Gina Loudon, who had the Dr. Gina Show. Sunny Johnson, she actually lives in Washington, and she is a huge political activist. She was in the Sarah Palin movie. She works with the Breitbart people. Amazing speaker. And Morgan Brittany, wonderful actress. She was in The Birds with Alfred Hitchcock.
Oh,
and
God.
She was on Dallas. Beautiful woman. She's a very, very strong conservative. So, yeah, we're out there. We go to events. We interview people. We talk about, it's kind of the conservative view, but without any liberals. Liberals have already had their time to speak, quite frankly.
They never shut up. You know,
No.
and that's the thing. Like, I don't know if you caught this thing. It was obviously Paul Krugman had accepted an invitation to what he thought was going to be an honorary dinner in Spain. And all these Spanish economists totally teamed up on him. It was a wonderful thing to watch because first they start and he doesn't know what's coming. He's saying, oh, the book was great. And, you know, you're a Nobel Prize winner and the quality of the writing and the research, it was phenomenal. But do you really think if we have a debt problem that you could just print our way out of it and that Keynesianism can possibly work? Aren't we all getting screwed? And like his jaw dropped and they would flatter him and then slam him. And to watch that, it really gave you some hope because most liberals, as you know, AnnMarie, will not ever engage in a debate on economic issues and societal issues. They assume the conclusion and say it's already been proven, just like climate change, already been proven, no truth to your views whatsoever. And how do you have an argument about the facts? It's impossible.
Oh, you don't. And then the ultimate, the end of the conversation is they call you a name, usually racist or elitist, or say you have no compassion, and then they get mad and leave, and then call you names behind your back the rest of your life. Yeah, there's no argument. It's a smoke monster. The emperor is naked, nothing there. And now, finally, people on our side are starting to speak out, and I'm really proud of the people who are. There are a lot of people out there, regular, everyday citizens who never were involved in politics in their lives, are really stepping up, and they're making differences in their communities, and they see that their voices are important. And I think that's what's going to change America.
I hope you're right there, because we need a change, and we need to know that people care and that they're willing to fight for something, because if they aren't, you can't just take freedom for granted. I mean, there was a picture of you on your website at the Reagan Library, which I just happened to visit 3 weeks ago because I was up by Thousand Oaks and I saw a sign that said the Reagan Library was...
I know. I love that place.
It's a really special place, and it made me want to visit the other presidential libraries too, even though going to see Jimmy Carter's wonderful achievements, you know, that's pushing it. But hey, it's worth going to these things because it's a walk through history. And the thing I liked about the Reagan Library is really honest. The presentation, there wasn't a lot omitted about his life. You know, a few things to be expected. Yeah.
Oh, he's my hero. And I guess I have another confession. I was a Democrat, and my first election, I know. when I was in junior high, we went to Plains, Georgia. I met my first celebrity, Billy Carter, and have a picture of me with him in the middle of my sister and me, with him posing with a beer, with a Billy beer, cigarette in the other hand. That was my first celebrity. So I was enamored with the Carters for whatever reason ever since.
Billy beer. Beer.
Oh, yeah. Billy beer.
Oh, God.
I didn't drink it, but yeah, it was there. And so I have since gone and apologized at President Reagan's gravesite because I didn't vote for him my first election. I did vote for Carter. It was...
Well, I voted for Carter. That was the first election I voted in. The first one, not when he ran against Gerald Ford. He ran against. That was my first election. I've never voted Democratic again, proudly so, because not that I've been happy with the Republicans. How could you be? How could you be happy with the Bushes? I mean, you can't be, because they're statists. They just want big government. and they're all about expanding government at the expense of your rights, of taking your rights away, of making you a vassal of the state. So how could you like them? But then, I was having this discussion with a guy by the name of Wayne Root, who actually was the Libertarian vice presidential candidate, which I guess if you have nothing better to do, probably is a fun thing. Say, I ran for vice president. He never had a chance to win, but, he said, look, I don't like either choice here, but there's business and then there's anti-business, and the business dies in the U.S., we're gone. So you really don't have a choice. And it's a little upsetting because this was such an opportunity to get a right-thinking, conservative person, freedom-loving, but we're stuck with the choice we're stuck with.
We are. And I was talking to you yesterday about some of the people that I've interviewed in the last year. I mean, I've talked to Frank Gaffney and some of the most amazing people who are in the center of America right now, who know what's happening. And they've told me on camera and off, and Lieutenant Colonel West told me, they all have told me, this isn't a regular election. This is a game changer. This is a deal breaker. If Obama wins again for 4 years, it's over, just over. It's hard to sleep when you've heard these people who know.
Oh, yeah.
Say this to your face.
Well,
it's really disturbing.
There's a column, I don't know if you've ever caught it, a website called the Ulsterman Report.
Oh, I love Ulsterman.
Yeah, well, that's what his Wall Street Insider says, is that, this is fundamentally about changing the country. And if we have this currency collapse and this global chaos, which we're heading right onto, and nobody seems to want to stop it or do anything about it, that's very possible. We might just wind up there. We got to wrap up, AnnMarie. Anything you want to say in conclusion here? I
have just had such a good time talking to you, and I hope I can come back and we can talk more about not being compassionate people and other evils on our side.
All right. And your site, people want to find you.
Yeah, it's politichick.tv.
AnnMarie Murrell. Hey, thanks so much for being on financialsurvivalnetwork.com. And we will definitely talk again soon.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you so much, Carrie.
Thank you.
It's been great.
You be well.
All right, bye-bye. Bye.